Welcome to Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Ben Slinger, and with me as always is Trevor Scott.
Hello.
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 How are you this fine evening?
Oh, I didn't get much sleep last night.
No. Just, were you thinking about VR and Unreal Engine?
Podcasting and problems that I was having with the fucking engine when I'm building it, and yeah.
Yeah, Trevor and I have been working on a little bit of a project. We won't go into too much detail on it now, but it has to do with virtual reality and podcasting at a studio. I think we've talked about it a little bit before, maybe, but who knows? But anyway, yeah, that's something to look out for. We're just dabbling. We're just having fun at the moment, but I'm picking up my 3D modeling skills again off the
there's
floor.
some funny shit in there. I've
Check
had some
out
good
Twitter.
laugh.
Check out Twitter. I think I might start posting some of the little props and things I've been doing. But yeah, it's been fun. But that's not for now.
No,
this is episode 90, I believe, of Bitstorm.
Holy
We're going to do
shit!
some click pitch. I know.
How the fuck did we get this?
10
this
away
far?
from the big 3 digis.
I was thinking
Digimons.
10 away from the big 300. I'm like, no, I think you got your mathematics wrong there, mate.
If we're lucky, we will record episode 100 at PAX if we kind of organize it correctly.
Ooh, maybe it'll be like a master cut of all the stuff that we've sort of.
We'll just pick the best game from all previous 99 episodes and put it all into one episode, and it'll be
10 hours worth of content.
Yeah, something like that. All right, but enough jibber jabber. Let's click some pitch. And for those who maybe are just joining us here late in the game, click pitch is a game where we each have a random word generator in front of us, and on the count of 3, 2, 1, click, we each click refresh, get a new word, and put them next to each other. See what they look like, see what little ideas they spark in our minds, and come up with a game design. So, shall we click?
We shall. 3, 2, 1, click.
Accident.
Running.
A running accident.
Okay, so my mind immediately went to a running track.
Yep.
Where there's the starter's pistol, who happens to put it up in the air. As soon as he fires it, he realizes it's not a starter's pistol; it's a real gun. So now it's just he accidentally grabbed his real gun. So now you're just
oh god damn it! The starter's pistol was on my left hip.
You're all just sort of running around, just trying to not get hit by the bullet.
So is this just kind of a wrinkle on a regular... I mean, not that there are that many, foot race games, but the rest of the game just plays out like a regular racing game, except that at some point a bullet is going to come down.
Yeah.
I like that. To add something to it, my mind kind of went to, as, when you think of foot races and running games, one of the most obvious ones is co-op. But a multiplayer running game, like a multiplayer co-op, sort of in 3D, not so much exactly where you're moving each muscle, as co-op sort of was, but I was almost thinking a game where you have to, almost a bit of Steppy Pants, but not quite. You know how I think it would work actually?
What?
Sort of a top-down-ish or three-quarter view where each person uses the 2 thumbsticks to control each of their legs. And so you're sort of moving one forward and then the other forward and then the other forward and then the other forward. But the legs are going to all go askew. You're pretty close together so you can trip each other over. You can get tangled up, and that's kind of where the accident comes in. And so it's sort of one of those physics-based games around running. Or, maybe a bit of Mount Your Friends in there. There's a bit of Surgeon Simulator, yeah.
So now I'm just picturing, this is something that we were talking about off air. Now I'm picturing that they're like marionettes. And what you're actually doing is you're pulling like the string, and that's really how you get a movie.
Well, that's almost
sort of,
how I was picturing. That's almost how I was picturing the controls, that they would act in that way. But you're saying they're actually marionettes.
Marionettes, so you can actually attack people's strings and get tangled up in them. And
so I just had a weird idea. I like the idea of marionettes, but I was picturing now each person is that marionetting their own feet.
God.
So there's still strings there that you can get like tangled up with each other, but you're holding your own strings. And so as they move, they're kind of doing that real like dorky like foot and like they're pulling their own foot up and putting it down, pulling their own foot up. I'm doing it right now. You can't see because this is a podcast, but picture some really amusing kind of animations around that.
Okay, so
throw 100 characters in there and microtransactions and you got a hit.
Basically, what I'm sort of seeing is, and this is coming back to a little bit of my ballroom dancing sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But normally when you walk, you've got like contra body movement, so you've got the opposite shoulder moving towards the opposite leg.
Sure. So
in this marionette game, you're actually doing same side of body sort of and same leg going forward as you're trying to pull yourself forward.
Yeah, so it's going to be really awkward, jerky movement.
Yep.
And you're gonna go into other people's lanes and you're gonna trip over and the physics is gonna take hold and what will we call it? Runny runs. Oh no, that sounds like a different sort of game.
Yeah. Okay, another wrinkle. It's Oculus.
Oh god! And so you're actually marionetting your own? Because I was still thinking like
your
top
character's
down
legs. You're marionetting your character's legs.
Make it crossplay. Some people can play with their controllers, and some people can play in VR.
Why not?
Yeah.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, click.
Yeah.
Continental.
Warranty. Warranty is a really boring word. Particularly when it comes around like gameplay.
I was thinking of something along the lines of a continental breakfast.
I thought of that too. Yeah, go on.
And then I was thinking that you're trying to make coffee and have your continental breakfast, but the warranty's just run out on the toaster or the kettle, and it's on the fritz.
All right.
So, I'm just trying to think of like a mini game of basically trying to make your breakfast as quickly as possible.
All right. For this one, instead of going into it from a gameplay perspective, because I feel like we're struggling.
Yep.
Maybe we need to go into a story perspective where these things are triggers for the story.
Okay.
Now, maybe it's something like the warranty on this person's car ran out.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to drive across Australia, but the warranty on their car ran out. So instead, they had to get a plane, and something happens on the plane. And now where Continental comes in is they're supposed to land in Perth, but it was hijacked or something, and so they have to keep going, and they have to somehow keep refueling the plane to actually get somewhere, or maybe like turn around. I don't know. Anyway, the idea is that they're stuck on this plane, I guess. And it's kind of I wasn't even supposed to be here today situation.
So it Clerks.
Yeah, well, maybe it's well, all right, let's turn that around. Maybe it's a Clerks type game where you are flight attendants, dialogue driven,
serving continental breakfast on the plane because it.
There you go. That's enough for continental breakfast.
Yep.
The plane is nearly at the end of its warranty period. Do planes have warranties, do you think? It's like, did they get the extended warranty on this 747?
Okay, so it's all sort of like the horror stories that you sort of hear, that you get different groups of people that, you know, one person's allergic to something, so you got to remember that the person's allergic to that, and then
the person who's just ordering like 50 beers and getting belligerent.
Yep.
The couple who are fighting, the kid who's
running up and down the aisles that you got to try and get back into the seat.
Yep. So how does the gameplay play out though to tell these stories? Like, we said dialogue driven. Is it sort of just a series of events where you're making decisions? Is there? I'm almost picturing a kind of a side on 3D view, like where the plane is kind of cut in half.
Okay.
And so you're sort of seeing it's sort of cut down the center of like the closest aisle to the camera. So there's like two aisles. Or maybe you have the people who are on this side of the aisle too, I guess. But anyway, like the side is off the plane, and so you can sort of you really only like walk back and forth, and you can sort of go into the far aisle or into the near aisle, and maybe there's some some little heads up stuff to sort of give you a sense of like a mini map sort of thing to know how far along the plane you are. And yeah, it's almost maybe a bit of a time management thing where, oh, this person's pressed their light, but I'm in the wrong aisle and someone's got the drinks cart out and the kid's running down that aisle. So like you've got certain things you can do to try to get there on time.
I think something that just popped into my head is this particular, like airline. I see them sort of being a little bit sexist.
Okay.
So I kind of like the idea that one of the air hostesses is actually the air marshal, but
all right.
But the airline was so cheap and so sexist that they made her also be like an air hostess, dressed in the skimpy sort of skirt, but also having to look out for like anyone doing something illegal as well.
I mean, I think you could probably get that sense of it just by, like maybe one of the interactions is with an air marshal who's on the plane. Like as you because as you sort of play this game, you start to learn about the different people, and you obviously the people who are really annoying you start to know about, but also there are people who are friendly and you have conversations with, and one of them is maybe the air marshal, and they perhaps like tell you to keep an eye out for things, and that's sort of part of the story. So I don't know that you need to go down the, like, contrive a way for them to be looking for those sorts of things. I think it's probably a bit better. Yeah, it's just that, your flight attendant, male or female, like, I think it's better to have a choice. Yeah, like, that's part of it is looking out for suspicious behavior, and kind of then it becomes part of the conversation tree, perhaps, or, I'm almost thinking not full-on point-and-click adventure, but you could have basic
elements,
elements of like inventory puzzles and dialogue puzzles in there. Not like full on combine this to make that and puzzle tree all the way down, but it's more like, to sort of get through this particular event, you need to get this one item and give it to someone.
Yeah, and then you've got the whole thing of trying to look out for when the couple in the back row try to sneak into the bathroom
yes,
to join the Mile High Club, and
definitely.
Oh, now I'm picturing a puzzle that happened in Zack McCracken.
Really? I think I've
egg in the microwave.
What? Okay.
It was the answer to one of the puzzles in that thing, where basically you as Zack McCracken had to go into the bathroom, stuff toilet paper into the toilet, and like flush it, and then quickly run up to the other end and like chuck an egg into the microwave just so that you could like steal stuff out of the bins while the air hostess was busy doing a whole heap of shit.
Okay. Right.
So I'm just picturing you've got someone who's trying to make lots of trouble that way, like trying to...
Well, there you go. That can be an Easter egg. Like, maybe at some point you do have to clean the toilet and then clean an egg out of a microwave, and people who have played Zack McCracken will get it. Check your bins or whatever and something's missing. So,
one of the things I would like to see in this is, like, some sort of emergency sort of situation happen as well. So
I'm kind of picturing different story threads, right? That perhaps reach a certain point where they cross over or come together in some way. But yeah, maybe sort of part of the climax is an emergency situation.
Oh, what it could actually be is you play one character sort of who normally does like this route that goes from, say, New York to Paris and Paris to New York. They're basically your things that you do all the time. But this time, you've been swapped onto the Paris to London, London to LA or something like that. That just sort of, you start meeting a few different people. Like I can sort of imagine that you do the Paris, New York a couple of times. You get to know a couple of the people who go back and forth with you. Yeah. So you start getting a bit of a handle on some of these people, but then when you get switched over, then something happens on this other flight.
Right. So you're sort of unfamiliar with it.
Yeah.
So you're saying this all happens in the game. So you have sort of different flights that different stories happen on.
And you can basically ramp up like the difficulty sort of stuff that happens on the plane. Like at first all you're worried about is like this New York to Paris or whatever isn't super, super long, the flight. It's, enough to sort of do a few drink services and that's about it. But the London to LA or whatever is, quite a few more hours. So you're actually doing dinner service in that, and it adds a little bit more. Yeah. Hectic.
I mean, New York to Paris is 7 hours.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Are you thinking more like European,
maybe internal European.
Internal European, yeah, like, so it's the London to Paris.
Yeah.
And then it's the Paris to New York or something. Yeah, anyway, that's fine. But yeah, okay, I like that. And I mean, I'm amused because we've basically turned this into very much the Papers, Please style cadence of, which we tend to do a lot. And I think part of that is just because it works well for telling interesting stories in these sort of otherwise relatively mundane jobs. But yeah, I like that you sort of, you've got your regular flights for a few, you do a few of your regular flights and it's just get to know some of the people that you see often, and then you get switched up to a longer flight and, some more challenging things start happening because, people's tempers and anxieties and things get, enhanced on a freaking long flight. Long flights are horrible.
You've done a few of those yourself.
I've done a few Melbourne to Canada via LA flights, and they are not pleasant.
Especially with young kids.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I like that. I like that idea. I think there's some really cool stuff you can do there, and yeah, I'm very much enjoying picturing that kind of side-on 3D view. I don't know.
Yeah. I like some of the stories. Like at one stage, you can actually have someone have a heart attack on the plane, and then you got to sort of deal with. Yeah,
you got to run up to the front to the intercom and see if anyone on the plane's a doctor, or turn the plane around maybe if it happens at the certain time. Or but
if it happens in the middle of the Atlantic, then guess what? You just got to keep going, and you've got to put a blanket on the.
Well, and then it's just one of the story threads that's happening that you have to check in on them and figure out, make sure what's happening. But it's this real tense thing that
check in
if
on
you
the
don't
panic,
do it right,
and,
they could die.
Or they did die, and you got to put a blanket over them, and
you've just got a corpse on the plane. Yeah,
yeah. I've heard that actually happens. They just put a blanket over, and
oh yeah, I mean that's what they have to do, right?
Yep.
Can't really put them down a cargo hold, I don't think.
You could have stories about the people who were afraid of flying, and then you can take the story to the nth degree. I kind of like the idea of having the crazy passenger transport, having like a Sam Jackson style character going, get these motherfucking snakes off this motherfucking plane.
Well, again, that's another Easter egg. It's just you have to deal with snakes on a plane, and there's a Sam Jackson style character
just eating a bag of killer pythons.
Outside of Australia, they're like, "What do you mean you have jelly snakes? Like, no one else has them,
don't they?"
Or jelly babies.
That's fucked up.
That's something that seems really weird to them. Like, you'll talk about it. That's the order you go. You'll bring up jelly snakes, and I'll be like, "What? What do you mean jelly snakes?" It's like, yeah, they go really well with the jelly babies, and they're just like, "What?"
At least we know that the UK are normal, and they've got this sort of stuff as well.
Yeah,
so that's okay. Okay, 3, 2, 1, click.
Let's do it. Noon.
Carrier.
Noon made me think of High Noon, which made me think of the Wild West.
Yeah, see, when I see carrier, I'm either thinking, if you're talking High Noon, then you could be talking carrier pigeon, or, where my mind went, because I've been watching so much fucking NCIS, is aircraft carrier.
Alright, so there's an aircraft carrier that goes back in time to the Wild West.
They just fly planes out and...
yeah, that could work. The only other carrier my mind went to was mail carrier, and so maybe there's a Pony Express kind of element to it. Mm-hmm. There could be maybe. Oh no, they did this on Cool Games Inc.
What?
I was going to say maybe it's Burnout with Horses, but I'm pretty sure they did that on CGI.
Yes, they did.
Damn it. It's not even. I literally came up with that independently and then I made that connection because I was liking the idea. I was trying to figure out all right, Pony Express racing, having to go really fast on a horse. That's going to get pretty boring. All right, maybe you have to race other horses, but it's still in this world. And then I was thinking open world racing, Burnout horses, and it's fuck, god damn it. All right. What's Noon got to do with an aircraft carrier then?
I'm thinking that your shift finishes at noon.
Okay.
And so
this is another sort of everyman kind of story about just a private in the Air Force or something.
Private or a petty officer or
whatever the fucking... I don't know if they have privates in the Air Force. I think it's probably the Army, but...
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like the idea that the captain invites you into the office and he gives you basically a mundane set of tasks that you have to do that actually sort of get you embroiled in something's happening on the carrier. That maybe there's I don't know whether you go terrorists or whether you just go like there's some shady deals that are sort of happening where like in the armory people are basically replacing the missiles with duds so that they can sell it off to pirates on the sea or something like that.
I mean, that's probably more likely.
Yep.
Internal corruption rather than actual terrorists.
Yep.
So, on an aircraft carrier,
yes.
Does the Navy or the Air Force, like, run the ship? I guess the Navy.
But don't forget, the Navy actually have pilots as well. So...
Right. For those seaplanes.
No, for jets and shit. Like, if you think of Top Gun, I'm pretty sure they were actually Navy. Because it was naval commander for... Tom Cruise was a naval commander.
He did have command over that naval. Anyway, whatever. I don't give a shit. It's beside the point. All right, so you're sort of trying to
Cruise plays Lieutenant Pete Maverick Mitchell, a young naval aviator. So, yes, it's all Navy.
That's dumb. Why do they even have an Air Force then? Anyway, all right, so you're trying to expose corruption on this carrier.
Mm-hmm.
And so the drama comes from obviously being in a relatively confined space out in the middle of the ocean. Are you a pilot? Or are you not there yet? Are you training to be a pilot?
I think that maybe you are training to be one.
I think if we're setting this on an aircraft carrier, there should definitely be some flying mechanics at some point.
Yeah, I think so too. Maybe. What just came into my head is Battleship the movie, the game.
Fuck off. We're not doing another one of those. No, what I was just thinking, because we haven't done anything around plane, like flying games particularly. That's an area mostly unexplored by us. Do you remember what was that really good Xbox One, not Xbox One, the Xbox game on the original Xbox, the plane one, that everybody loved, Crimson Skies.
Never played it.
It's like a story-based flying game, like dogfighting, attacking ground targets.
Cool. I like.
My thought was, though, that yes, you start on an aircraft carrier. Yes, you aren't a pilot. But something happens, and you're like the only one who's got anything close to any sort of pilot training left alive.
Okay.
And so now you are the pilot for this thing, and you're like having to go on missions and stuff, but you got fuck all training, and you're like learning on the fly. Pun intended.
Okay, I really like this. What it is if you remember back in the day, LucasArts did these amazing series of games, basically the X-Wing series and TIE Fighter.
Yes.
They did a game called X-Wing Alliance. Now...
Yes, that was a 3D... It was like a later one, right?
Yeah.
Full 3D.
The later one had a story that you worked in a... basically almost on a farm as such, doing basic jobs for your family, and then you get embroiled in something, and then like you join the Rebel Alliance. Well, I'm thinking...
Yep.
You start off flying a crop duster, like at home.
Okay.
So you've got basically a biplane sort of thing, and you're just dusting crops, and that's how you're learning how to do plane maneuvers and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and then you've got to get all that dust off those crops.
Yes,
with your little duster.
So then, when you finally join the Navy, something happens, and you're the only one with flying experience. So then you start getting missions in there where you're doing just faster versions of what you've already sort of done, like having to fly off and like hit a target and fly back, and then you can...
I like that explanation for why they've got some experience. I kind of like the idea, though, of the player being thrown right into it as this mostly unexperienced person.
So give it one crop dusting mission right at the very start, and then like turn the speed up to 11.
Well, I'm not saying make it super difficult. I more meant from Spinal Tap. I get it. I more meant from a story point of view, so that you're thrown right into the action. So maybe there is a bit of like, did you ever play the Wing Commander games?
Yes, long time.
And
ago.
I mean, I think maybe I can't remember if the X-Wing games had a bit of this as well, but you always had like story stuff that happened on the like your main ship and on the station in between, and you could go to your your different rooms and talk to different people and like do your training and stuff.
Yeah, you didn't have so much of the talking, but you definitely still had running threads that went between the missions, and also like there was some basic story happening on the
So
ship.
I'm thinking this starts off that you are on the aircraft carrier, and you're a whatever petty officer, whatever it was, fairly low ranked, but you do have this crop dusting experience, and that just comes up in conversation. And so the start is, relatively low key, but quite quickly something happens, and there's been like, maybe it's a fucking civil war, right? Like that's the most likely war for America to be involved in anytime soon. Well, that's not true, but let's make them fight themselves. And a civil war in this day and age is going to be fucking bombs and jets and whatever, right? Like whoever can get control over the military equipment that like every fucking police department has, they're gonna be the ones on the front lines. So you're like out there, kind of off the coast of, I don't know, fucking California. I don't know where they do this shit, but on this aircraft carrier, you're just out there doing training stuff. You're a fairly new recruit, but civil war breaks out while you're out there. California, being the left-leaning state that it is, just fucking is the first to be attacked by the right-wing military fuckwads, and you're recruited by like some of the people who are defending California. But so maybe it's not right away then that you're the only person with this experience. But I think you are thrown immediately in because there are limited people who can fly the planes on the ship.
Okay. So I'm picturing that before the Civil War happened, you've already gone out to sea.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So they get word that the Civil War has broken out, and all of a sudden you have all these pilots who are right-wing sort of people who just sort of start turning on say, the left. Yeah,
but they all get put in the brig pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah. So you're like one of 7 people who are left leaning who have piloting experience. So you have basically that sort of that conflict happening on the carrier as well.
Yeah. I like that. You could do some really interesting story stuff there where, depending on who finds out first, which is going to depend on their rank and stuff, some like backstabbing and betrayal but yeah, it all plays out and the sort of the left leaning folks come out ahead on this particular carrier and then make contact with their compatriots on the land.
I quite like that. I think some of the missions that you can do is like simple bombing runs. I
think you got bombing runs, dogfighting. You can be like dropping people off who are going to parachute in for like covert missions. So you can like fly low, maybe you get a stealth plane. Maybe part of it is stealing the stealth plane because you can have some like on ground stuff too, maybe, or maybe you just help someone steal the stealth plane. But
I'm picturing a refueling mission in which Air Force One is having some trouble flying away. Like they got hit and they don't have much fuel left. So you got to sort of like get into those aerial sort of positions and.
Depending on who's president, you can decide whether or not to save them. Maybe it's just that you need to like refuel Air Force One so you can escort them to military prison.
Maybe it's one of these things
where
that
he belongs.
The problem about the Civil War is that basically the left have had so much had enough of the right, so they basically seceded from the United States sort of thing, and so they've both got presidents.
Right, okay. So do they have Air Force One and Air Force 1A? How do they differentiate?
How do they distinguish? You got a blue plane and a red plane.
And you've got the announcer from Team Fortress.
It all just turns into red versus blue. Awesome. Well, I reckon that's pretty good. Leave that one there.
One a lot. That's cool.
3 to 1 quick.
Arithmetic.
You gotta keep them separated. Separate.
Which one of those words? Okay. Separate arithmetic.
It's just a game where you actually teach the ideas of separating out, the brackets, the multiplication and division and addition and subtraction. And so that you teach all those people who just really don't know how to do them on all those Facebook fucking pages.
Oh, God.
How to actually fucking calculate math.
Maybe it's not separate, maybe it's separate. Like this is a separate form of arithmetic. Like the secret form of arithmetic that the aliens kept from us.
They actually, in alien arithmetic, they have base 32.
Interestingly enough, they have base banana. And everything's
just a fruit.
It's base fruit. That's right. Bananas are ones because they're kind of sort of shaped like a one.
Like a phallus.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's not relevant, but
apples are
it's true.
Because you use
they're
two of
kind
them
of
to
shaped like
balls.
breasts. So it's just this like 13-year-old version of arithmetic, but they also really like fruit. 3 already looks like testicles, so you don't even need to do anything with that. So it goes banana, apple, 3.
Oh, God.
Right, I think we click again.
Yeah, click again. Given.
Personality. So my mind went immediately to Joss Whedon's Dollhouse.
Ooh. I like.
For those who haven't seen that, the general idea is that for money, these people, mostly attractive people, get their brains scooped out, metaphorically, and become a blank slate for them to then project new personalities on, and they basically go out and do particular jobs. So these personalities give them skills and different things, and they sort of create them out of other people's personalities and merge them together into what they need.
I really don't know why someone didn't ever try to create a game of this, because this would be fucking awesome.
So yeah, how do you think you'd play? Like, would you just play one of the dolls?
Yeah. It's basically like a cross between Hitman and a point-and-click adventure game.
Okay.
You get given a something that you got to actually do, and that could be, escort this person to the ball. So you escort the person to the ball, you have conversations, and as you're there, as per normal, something goes completely awry, and you start being able to...
And you're like, oh shit, they gave me combat skills. They knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, or you have a look at your skill tree and you realize you have no combat skills.
Oh, I like that idea of like every time you go out on a mission, you can check your skill tree and it's just completely different.
Yeah.
But it's like a regular game skill tree. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could really play with the video game aspects of it too.
But the good thing is, if as your character goes on and gets more personalities, what happened, spoiler, in the TV show is that Eliza Dushku's character started actually being able to pull back on, recall some of the previous skills that she had.
Yeah.
And so the idea being that as you go on, there's a glitch that could actually happen, and all of a sudden you get these extra combat skills that you didn't have before.
I like that. I like that as a gameplay mechanic. Or a story mechanic, but I'm trying to think if you could work that in as a gameplay mechanic where at certain points you can basically graft a section of a skill tree from a previous character onto your own for a limited amount of time. This could work really well as an RPG, actually.
Yeah.
Because then you can really go down a bunch of different skill trees where you've got sort of conversation and personal interaction type stuff. You've got combat type stuff. You've got like just other general skills that may come in handy on a mission.
For the first few missions, someone gives you the personality that you're going to actually have for the mission.
Yeah, definitely. I think even the first few missions, because I'm trying to think whether you can bring in some of the memory loss stuff. Because in the show, in between missions, they were just kind of in this blank state where they were in this nice sort of spa-like environment and just walked around blankly and did their basic primitive functions. Maybe you don't let them see that for until like 3 missions have passed. So all they see, they start this game and they're right in the action and they've got like a half decent skill tree. They can do a bunch of stuff. They finish that mission. Fades to black, fades back up, different mission, completely different skill tree. You look the same, different cost, different clothes, different skill tree. And you're like, what the fuck? And then you've got to figure out how to apply those skills to this situation.
And they could be somewhat mishmashed, as in, they're not quite matching how you wanted to play, because it's very, very different from the previous one.
Oh, I like that. I like that idea that you put them through the whole like a character creation, including picking their skills for that first mission, and just make the mission general enough that any of them will work, and then they're just wiped out.
Yep.
They're just gone. But after those first 2 or 3 missions, then you start bringing in the in-between stuff, and that's representing the fact that they're starting to remember and kind of build their own internal personality on that blank slate, which is sort of what happened on the show.
But they're basically, I think the things that they actually get back when they're in this sort of environment are their original skill tree that they built up.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And that's what I was going to say, that, then as the glitching starts happening, or as the recall starts happening in later missions, not only can you pull from the ones that are just part of the story, but then that original skill tree that you built up at the beginning during your character creation, you start getting some of those back.
Yep.
So it's actually just a really interesting way to expose the player to a bunch of different skills
and play
throughout
styles.
the game and play styles, but also allow them to have a relatively somewhat traditional, because I think at the beginning you just let them, choose out the whole skill tree, but then that comes back slowly, more in line with a traditional game.
Kind of reminds me of, if you remember Prototype, how you were sort of really, really powerful at the very start, and then it sort of all gets stripped away and you sort of build it up again. But the idea of it being you choose your skill tree, and then that gets completely wiped and a new skill tree comes in. Yeah, I really like kind of like the mindfuck that'll happen with the character going, I just spent all this time building this character. They've taken it away from me, but it seems like to suit what's going on here. I need to look into this a bit more. Yeah.
So what's your character's name? Because
Echo.
they all use... Well, no, I don't think you play as Echo. We've got to choose something else
Alpha.
from the NATO... Well, those are just ones that were already used.
Was Sigma used? I can't remember.
Sigma's... No, pretty sure they were from the NATO alphabet, which I'm looking at right now. So they used Alpha. They used Sierra. They used... Tango? Was Tango?
Yeah, Tango was used. That was...
Victor. They used Victor.
Wasn't Tango, what's her name from Angel? Fred?
Oh, yeah. No, she was Whiskey.
Whiskey.
She was Whiskey. Right. So maybe you could... I think maybe it could be Tango. We could use Tango. We could just... There's some that are just... We could use Oscar. It'd just be Oscar. Although you probably want to be... If we're doing RPG, you probably want to be gender neutral.
Sierra, that's what I was thinking, not Sigma.
Yeah. Foxtrot. There you go. Your name's Foxtrot.
I'm just picturing the person called Foxtrot literally does like ballroom dancing of a foxtrot.
Sure, that's in the skill tree.
Ballroom dancing is in the skill tree. That's actually kind of.
I mean,
awesome.
It would be. They had a lot of like jobs where you'd have to go into a fancy environment and seem upper class or whatever. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. That's cool. You could do something really cool with.
Yeah,
I feel like I say that at the end of every game. We need a better way to move from one game to the other. No, I think there definitely should have been a Dollhouse game. And that's how they should do it, because we are the experts. 3, 2, 1, click. Motor.
Foreigner.
This is a car enthusiast game.
I mean,
which I knew nothing about. But I was just thinking of foreign cars.
If only the other, a couple of weeks ago, we didn't go on, like, with the road trip game. Because all that's coming into my head right now is like a road trip in which it's set in like the 80s. And there's
you're
like
listening to Foreigner?
No, there's a tape that's stuck in the tape player that is only Foreigner. Like it's the best of Foreigner.
Is the game like based around the band Foreigner?
Well, what came into my head is in this sort of best of. I don't even know whether they've got a best of Foreigner, but I'm kind of seeing
sure
it
they do.
Kind of like Dark Side of the Moon. You know how people
they've been active for 40 years.
Yeah, people try to put Dark Side of the Moon up and like see whether like things happen in the in the world in movies that sync
like
up.
match up, yeah.
That match up. Well, I'm picturing that as you go in this game, things start matching up with the lyrics of The Best of Foreigner.
Well, so I was thinking of that. I like the idea of a game because the whole thing with Dark Side of the Moon is just, it's a pretty long album. It's got some interesting themes in it. And so you whatever you put in the background, you see some level of synchronicity.
Yep.
And obviously it matches up better to some things than others.
One that I can think of is Paul Blart Mall Cop 2.
Seriously?
Yeah, because Griffin did it with Till Death Do Us Blart.
He did. That's right. Jesus. But my point is that confirmation bias is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like the idea of a somewhat story-based game where you literally just put an album on in the background. You don't actually try to make it line up to anything. You just let the audience, you just let the player notice things that seem to line up to them, and they'll think you're amazing.
The thing is, they let you put on anything, like, as in, kind of similar to the Grand Theft Auto soundtrack idea, that you just put in your own songs into.
Oh, you can just put in any song?
Any album, any song, and
so how do you because I was thinking you specifically choose an album that at least, like Dark Side of the Moon, has some level of just a lot of things to build off of and interesting lyrics and stuff. I guess you could make a game where the characters are just pointing out particular moments and reminding you to, hey, does that match up with the song? Or like saying that matches up with the song, and someone goes, oh, what did they just say? Oh yeah, they said baby, and there's a baby in this scene. That's right, it did match up. Wow, how did they do that? And you just put babies in. There's a lot of babies in this game. There's a lot of love.
They're singing about Alexander Hamilton, and look, there's a $10 note.
Exactly, there's money. Basically, this is a cold reading game, but you're training the player to be a cold reader. Reverse cold reading. All right, 3, 2, 1, click.
Yeah. Fairness.
All right, fairness. Mine is tap. Now, I like tap because I feel like it's got a lot of flexibility in how it could be interpreted. Verb, noun, multiple verbs, multiple nouns. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe just one noun. Anyway. Fairness and tap. Well, you keep bringing up your ballroom dancing, so tap's got me thinking of tap dancing.
Ugh.
Oh, I've hit a nerve. Tap dancing? I'm a ballroom dancer. We don't fornicate with those people. Fornicate? I meant a different word, but you don't fornicate either. Fraternize is what I meant.
So you meant fraternize, not fuck with.
I meant be friends with, not get it on. Tap, tap. I wonder how a tap dancer fucks.
Let's get it on.
They'd be pretty...
Well, I know how a ballroom dancer fucks.
Slowly and with grace. I don't know.
With gusto.
With gusto.
And hip movements.
With a rose in their mouth. Do you do, like, tangos?
Yeah, but not usually with a rose.
Well, that's just not good enough. All right. Tap fairness. Well, maybe this game is about the rivalry between ballroom dancers and tap dancers.
Okay, yep. Okay, now I'm picturing, like, have you ever seen the movie Step Up?
I haven't, but I know the general idea.
So I'm picturing that you got, like, this gang of ballroom dancers and this gang of, like, tap dancers who like meet in the middle for, like, dance battles, but the dance battles are like tap dancing and ballroom dancing.
Yeah. I love that idea. It's just like, that's it. You're going down. And then they stop and it's like, I don't know what a fucking ballroom dancing song sounds like.
They're doing like Paso Doble, so like really, really.
Of course, yeah.
Really strong. And then, they tried doing some other tap thing and it's like, then these people start doing a jive or, some sort of other Latin dance. It's all Latin that I'm going to.
The ballroom dancers out there are loving it.
Well, I'm loving it, so.
I don't know any of that terminology. But no, so what's the gameplay? Is this like a real-time strategy game? Oh no, like a tactics game. Yes. Because then what? You don't like tactics games?
You know I don't like tactics games.
No, I didn't. I know you don't like management games.
You know I don't like real-time strategy. You know I don't like management games.
Well, Trevor,
real-time strategy and management are very similar to, tactics games.
That creates a big hole in our possible game. So we're doing a tactics game because it's perfect.
We've never done one before.
Because we've never done before. It's perfect because, like, it means the ballroom dancers particularly will have very specific movements they can do, right? For particular moves that will, like, move 2 steps that way and 1 step that way is this move, and moving 2 steps forward is that move, and then doing this sort of attack is like, spin your partner and do-si-do. I know you don't do-si-do. It's fine. And then the tap dancers, they've got a bit more flexibility in how they move.
Because they're not having to move with a partner.
They're not having to move with a partner, and they're not kind of, like, they're not kind of having to do specific, like, I feel like there's a bit of sort of a chess element on different sides, because a ballroom dancer, to do a specific move, it's sort of a more sweeping move, right? And so they're going to move further with it or in specific directions, whereas tap dancers kind of can just move wherever, but maybe it's about the surfaces they can move on. So they have to stay on hard surfaces. So
if they go into grass, then they can't make the tap noise anymore. So
yeah, they lose power. Like, there's some sort of power in their dance. And I think tap dancing is about swarming a bit more, because the louder the tap, the more powerful they are. So keeping them together, or like in certain configurations, is going to give you different moves or better moves or buffs or something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who would do well from having the higher ground? What are their attacks? How do they attack each other? I guess you've got moves in ballroom dancing where you kind of put a hand out, right? So maybe it's just like you slap them with the back of your hand.
It's like
as
elbowing.
It's
you got a ronde, which is kind of like a foot sweep. You've got you've got actual kicks like that you can do. So you've got a lot of attacks in ballroom
and then on the tap side, it's all about rhythmic attacks. So it's sort of, tappity tappity punch, tappity punch, tappity punch punch sort of thing.
Kickball change.
Yeah.
And when I say kickball change, I'm talking about kick, groin,
kicking.
And
yes. I love it.
Yeah, I'm kind of on it now.
You came around on it.
I came around on it.
All right, cool. 3, 2, 1, click.
Yeah, I reckon we've got time for one more. Let's make it a good one.
All right. Empty.
General.
The empty general. He's emotionally empty. It doesn't have to be a general like a person. It could be
general store, or it could be
general store, an empty general store. It could be a tactics game in a general store.
I mean, my mind immediately goes to, like, in this general store, like, it's the story of maybe the people that owned it. Like, they're closing it down, sort of thing. Like, it's...
All right, we're doing one of these.
We're doing one of these again.
Sob stories. All right,
and
okay.
It's kind of like...
Big business has come in.
Big business has come in, and it's the story of this older couple who are now selling up their store. But then...
Sure.
You get, like, the flashbacks to, like, the 1950s when the previous owners, like, owned it, and these two were workers in the place, and then they eventually...
All right. Just to really make the story a bit more interesting and less heteronormative, let's make it a gay couple.
Okay.
Because then you could tell some really interesting things around, like, having to be in the closet and keep their love secret.
During the 1950s and...
Yeah, like, yeah, exactly. But then as, it became more acceptable, like, part of the whole story is it all revolves around this store, but you see them being able to celebrate their love, as maybe sort of come the 80s, 70s or 80s, depending on what area of town this this general store's in, probably. But having to put up with, homophobic violent behavior and then, like, getting to the end point being the current time where this store can't survive anymore because it's surrounded by like 7 Walmarts.
So you're thinking America rather than like...
I mean, that's where the most homophobic violence is. No, that's not true, actually.
I was actually thinking, it could be set in Sydney. And,
all right, we can do Australia.
Because then you've got...
So it's surrounded by a Woolies and 2 Coles.
Okay, so yeah, if it's in Sydney, then yes, Woolies, but if it's in Victoria, then you can have like Safeway and Franklin's and Coles, because I'm always thinking... There's a Brashes. So what I'm sort of picturing is around... The store sort of closes around the time where the gay community was sort of just being accepted in Sydney culture with like the gay and lesbian Mardi Gras and that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And in that, I mean, it's still not as accepted as what you'd really like it to be, but...
Well, we did just have a fucking useless plebiscite.
At least, 60% of the people who actually wrote in had a bloody brain. Yeah. Growing up with family members who are gay, it's just been part of my life the whole time. It's like, it's always been normal to have an uncle who's gay. So it was like, I don't get what's wrong. If he wants to get married, he should be able to get married. That's,
of course, it's a no-brainer. But anyway, yes, so you're thinking that we don't even go to modern day. We kind of go into like the 80s and 90s and that's where it ends.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell, some stories about, the whole AIDS epidemic. You could tell some stories about all these other sort of things that sort of happened.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some powerful. Not that there aren't powerful LGBT stories happening right now, but the sort of the real crux of it. A lot of that happened in the 70s to 80s.
Oh god, now my mind is just saying no. We're going to set this in Tasmania.
Oh jeez,
because of the whole up until like 1996, it was illegal to be gay.
Why do we live in this fucking country again?
But maybe you can choose what state you.
Oh god, and it changes things. No, I think it'd have to be more heavily plotted than that. But
I know it really opened my eyes a little while ago when I found out that Tasmania had like a law like that, and in fact, in some places, some people still haven't had their like arrest records expunged, like that was supposed to be allowed. Like
this is somewhat off topic, but on a similar note, fucking abortion is still illegal in Queensland and I think New South Wales.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So there's that. Good job, Australia, you fuckers. All right.
And because it had to be fucking Sydney and Queensland.
We are a bit more progressive here in Victoria, and we have a good premier at the moment. But everybody voting back in November, please. Actually, vote for Greens, but their preferences will go to Labor anyway. So, all right. So at the end of this episode, we've got
will go to Labor if you write them down, or they'll go to whoever the fuck you want, because that's the way that should be voted.
But that's true. But generally, yes. Hello, this is Politicast Australia. I'm Bensley. Anyway. I really like this idea. I do like our story-based ideas that we do with this, and I think there are a lot of great stories to be told there. It'd be really interesting actually to bring in some more trans stories, which, were probably not told as strongly or have not been told as strongly during the same time period. Cause they tend to be kind of left out.
Yeah, they do.
Of the history around that sort of thing. But yeah, I like the idea that it all kind of revolves around this general store. You see their love blossom. You see them struggle through that time. You see them sort of take over the store and get, there's a real community that builds up around it, and it fucking...
You see the occasional, like, bigot sort of throw a brick through a window sort of thing.
Exactly. I was about to say, like, you have some huge drama where someone bloody... Yeah, I was going to say, like, firebombs it or something. That might be a bit too... a bit too much, but... Yeah, I think that's really interesting.
Spray paint on the windows and the doors and stuff.
Yeah, and it could be... And the ending, like... I think it would be a really interesting bittersweet ending where the end of this store, because it just can't survive anymore in this modern climate, juxtaposed against the fact that while things are not as good as they should be, they are able to... Like, maybe it ends, and that this... We were thinking of ending it earlier. maybe it's set in Canada so we can do this. Maybe it ends with like same-sex marriage being legalized. And so there's sort of this, they can finally get married at like, 70 years old or something.
Okay. How about this for a slightly different way of presenting the game? Still the same idea. Basically, the entire thing is one still shot.
Okay.
So you have a single shot that you see the counter, you see some shelves off to the side.
So you're not saying it's frozen. You just mean the camera doesn't move the whole time.
The camera doesn't move the entire time, and you can basically, like, the aesthetic changes and that sort of stuff, but the actual, it's almost as if it's this constant security camera footage, but, high def security camera that you just see all the different things, and over the end credit sequence, you see off in the corner like a spider creating a web. And basically just...
Well, although, no, I really like that idea. I think fixed camera, whether it's a security camera or not, I don't know, but because you can do some real cool time-lapse stuff, like in between the sort of different segments that you have of story, you get these awesome like time-lapse segments of sort of things changing and around the store.
The way that you can tell like it's in the 60s is they come in like hippie sort of outfits.
Yeah, totally.
And then,
yeah. Well, of course, all the like, it'd be a hell of a job for an environment designer, but they could have a lot of fun with it too. All the posters change, all the products change over the decades. There's so much that changes. Obviously, the fashions change. The people who regulars like, grow up and change and
coming into the flock of seagulls haircut and
totally like, yeah, fucking happy pants. I don't know. That was my
dressing
80s.
up as kids dressing up in different Star Trek uniforms over the years.
I like that one a lot. Yeah, you've just got this, like, well, maybe it's just one character who's really into Star Trek, and you get to see all the different, like, he just gets into every show as it comes out.
Yep.
And it's just this, like, then after Enterprise, he's just like, fuck Star Trek. But then later.
And then he comes in like a Jedi outfit.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. When the prequels come out. And then he's like, fuck Star Wars. And then the reboot of Battlestar Galactica comes with that. So, I like that a lot. But I love the idea of the only like, you have this fixed camera the whole time, and then the last scene is them, like, walking out the door and the camera follows them. Like, the camera does this great move outside. It's like sunset. Oh, man, I'm giving myself tingles. Like, I love that idea of just that, of a game that's just had that fixed camera the whole time, told this amazing love story. And,
what I kind of see...
And then just, like, leave, they leave the store together.
Is maybe... What they actually do is they come over and pick up whatever the item is that you're watching it from the view of. No,
I like the idea that it's just... It doesn't have to be an actual object.
Doesn't have to be?
I don't think so. Like, even if it seemed like a security camera the whole time, that, like, you can break that at the end just to have that moment, right? Like, because that almost makes it even more powerful. But yeah, just having that moment of them, like, walking out and holding each other's hands or something, and the store's done, but... Oh, and, you see their fucking ring. You see the rings on their fingers. Ah.
They switch off the light, and then, like, the camera sort of
they're just, like, silhouetted in the door.
Just follows.
God damn. That's awesome.
I like it. I like it a lot. I like these narrative games, and what you can, like, be somewhat controlling is one of the characters, you've got their conversations, but you're only controlling whatever they can do in the general store itself.
Yeah. Look, I think with a game like this, you don't even have to provide. I mean, obviously you have interactions every day, and there are things you can do around. And I think it's just conversations, though, and you just limit the sorts of things people can interact with at any time. So when shit does go down and someone throws a brick through the window, the character ducks down behind, and you sort of have to make them crawl to the other side where the phone is and try to call the police or call their partner. Or whatever. Like, if you maybe have a few different options, and each scene could maybe go, some of the scenes could go in different ways and alter the story a little bit. But yeah, I think it's more about the storytelling, and just the gameplay comes from, you've got some control over what they do and in what order they do things. And yeah, some things could sort of branch the story in slightly different ways. I mean, maybe you could have different endings. You could have a horribly tragic ending where, one of them dies. Or...
What I kind of like is in the camera view, like, just say on the bottom left, you see a stack of newspapers.
Right.
And you can sort of read the
headlines.
The headlines. You can't see what date it is, but you can at least see the basic part of the headline.
Yeah.
And that's the only sort of thing that you get the idea of. And they could actually be...
Yeah, again, I think it could be, I mean, not subtle as such, but it's environmental. You're not popping up a thing that says 1979. You're just like showing events on the newspaper, and you're showing it in the fashion and in the decor and the events.
Yeah, and I think by actually having like real headlines that existed in those times, sort of like when Nixon got impeached and all that sort of stuff, you could actually have something like that on your newspaper, and you just don't call attention to it.
Yeah,
for people to just see the Easter eggs and
Oh god, I mean, like I said, an environmental designer could have a field day with Easter eggs and little homages to actual products and things from the time, or actual posters. It's a general store. Like, they're going to have advertising up everywhere. And I'm just picturing all those like Streets ice cream or whatever, advertisements that you'd see in a milk bar or whatever in Victoria, particularly if we're sending to Australia. I mean, that could be interesting in Australia for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it does vary a bit from the American narrative around LGBT rights and different things.
I like it. I like it a lot.
It's really cool.
It is. Okay, I reckon that'll do for today.
On that heartwarming note, I think we shall finish up. Thank you for joining us this week on Bitstorm. If you want to find us online, we are on Twitter and on Facebook and on Instagram. And we are Bitstormcast on all those. We have a Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Bitstorm. Nobody's in there. Come and join us. Post something.
Because we certainly don't.
Because we do not. We have a YouTube channel. We might be starting to post some more things there as we experiment with our super secret project. Search for Bitstorm. I think maybe you'll find us. I don't know. It's a tough one. But if you really do want to find us, go to Podchaser. Our YouTube link is there. Podchaser.com/Bitstorm. And I will just mention this week, because Podchaser is my site, and we just released early access sign up to our creator profiles, which is our sort of IMDb-like functionality that's coming. So for other podcasters out there, go to podchaser.com/creators. Give us your bio and your photo and stuff. And when that goes live, you will have a creator profile on Podchaser, and people will be able to find all the other stuff that you've done. And also you can get a free t-shirt out of it. So
awesome.
Pretty cool shit.
If you are of the Apple elite, I suppose you could call it.
Elite? No. If you're an Apple pleb.
If you're an Apple pleb like myself, and like Ben used to be, you can check us out on iTunes, where you can rate, review, and subscribe. We've got a website, bitstormcast.com. I'd like to thank all our friends and get you to check out their podcasts at the AGPN, the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network. Check out #AGPN on Twitter, or find the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network group on Facebook. Finally, we'd like to thank Kuradust for the awesome song that you hear at the start and end, Mount Defiance, off of the album Containment Failure.
That's right. So, thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
Highway to the danger zone.
Oh, no, that's a different song.
Tom Cruise.